guys, thanks for stopping by. Today I thought I'd try something a little different. I want to talk about two of my favorite chord voicings. These are voicings that I think can give your comping a little bit of a hipper sound if you're into jazz. And they're very simple. I think I probably stole them from Ed Bickert or Jim Hall, two of my favorite guitarists, both of whom can get some really great sounds out of just three or two, even two notes. So the first voicing that I want to talk about is actually only three notes, and it's like this. A little bit of tension there. We have a major seventh. So in this particular position, the notes are E, B flat, and E flat. So we can think of that voicing in a couple of different ways. One way, which is quite obvious, is you can think of it as like a dominant seventh with an augmented nine. So that kind of a chord without the root in it. So in that case, you have a third, flat nine, augmented ninth. Sorry, third, flat seven, augmented ninth. The other way to think about this chord, though, is, I'm going to move it up one fret so it's a little easier to talk about, is as a 13th chord. So in this position, for example, if we think of this as like a G 13th, you have an F, a B, and an E. So over a G, that's a flat seven, third, and the sixth. So a nice quick grip for a substitution for a sixth or a 13th or a seventh chord, but giving it a little bit more attention than you'd normally get. The third way to think about this voicing, and I'm going to move it up one more fret, and think of it in terms of a D minor chord. So you can see here, if this were a D minor, we would have here a C and an F. So there's the flat seven, right? And there's the flat third. But this note here is really standing out. This F sharp or G flat. I think probably better to think of it as G flat voicing wise. So what that means is you have a minor 7 flat 11th. So in the case of a D minor, the G would be the 11th. We're flattening that. Now another way to think about that is it's kind of also a tritone sub. So we're using the same voicing for a D minor 7 flat 11 and for, in this case, an A flat 13th. So you can see the A flat as being a sort of tritone sub for the D. Anyhow, so very simple voicing, but very flexible and ambiguous. So we'll see how it works in a minute here. The second voicing that I want to talk about is simply probably best thought of as like a minor 11th. You can add that fifth if you want, but so as a minor 11th, you'd have your root, the 11th, flat 7, flat third, and the fifth. So in a C minor 11th, that would be C, F, B flat, E flat, and G. And this is obviously is an obvious sub for a minor 7th chord. So instead of this, it's pretty plain vanilla, you get this a little hipper. It's because it's got a chordal sound to it, right? So it's got these fourths in it, these 11ths. C to F, F to B flat to E flat. Nice hip McCoy Tyner sound. So that's one way to think of that. You substitute, play that over a D minor 7th. The other way to think about that chord, though, is as a 6-9 chord. And so, for example, if I thought of this as, let's do it up here. It's easier to think about. Let's say I thought of this as a substitution for a G major 7th. So G major 7th is. So, in that case, I have a B, an E, an A, a D, and an F sharp. Right? So, that's your 6th, sorry, that's your third, your sixth, your ninth, your fifth, and your major seventh. It's kind of an interesting stuff. So the other way to think of that same chord is as a kind of a 6/9 flat 5. So, for example, if I thought of that in relation not to the G, but in relation to the C, let's take a look at what I have. So again, we have the B, the E, the A, the D, and then in this case, think of it as a G flat. So major seventh, right? So we have the major seventh, we have the third, we have the sixth, we have the ninth, and we have the flat 5. That's kind of an interesting choice. So let's say, for example, and I'll show you how we might use this in context. Now I'm going to overdo it. I'm going to use it much more than I normally would in comping, but let's just see how this would work. So let's say you're playing over this familiar tune. Now I'm going to try comping over it using the kinds of voicings that I've just talked about. So instead of a minor 7th, I'm going to play a minor 11th. And then instead of a major 7th, I'm going to play that 6/9. So one more time. Okay, and now interestingly enough, the next chord would be D flat major 7th. I could play the same voicing. And instead of the G7th, I'm going to play that 13th voicing we talked about. And then instead of the major C major 7th, I'll play that one with the flat, the 6/9 with the flat 5. So, and then if I wanted to do that flat 11 chord over the C minor 7th. And then end again with the 6/9. So just a couple of ideas for some very simple voicings that can make your comping just a little cooler, a little hipper. We'll see you next time. Maybe I'll come up with some other voicings for you. Thanks for listening.